Hello everyone. So it's been 3 weeks since my last video, which was the Mark Lyda praise video, telling people that those haters they're just that haters. So don't listen to them. Mark's a good guy. I actually met him, unlike those people. So that was 3 weeks ago. One of the reasons why I have been why it took me so long to do another video is because I've been having some health issues I've been dealing with. So if you want to support the channel or me, you can. The information's in the description, but do not feel obligated. So after doing that video, my subscriptions went from 147 to 569, so that was pretty cool. I wasn't expecting that video to get many views. It got 27,000 views, or 28,000 so far. That is the video with the most views that I have. So I've been having some health issues. I have a molar on the bottom back that broke about 8 months ago. And in the last couple months it's been hurting pretty bad, but it's been hurting consistently for the last month and a half. I've been taking a lot of ibuprofen 900, or 800, excuse me. And for those of you that don't know, ibuprofen kills your kidneys. Yeah, it kills your kidneys. I've been taking often 3 times a day, sometimes 2. I try to take the least amount possible. Nobody has any problem with over-the-counter medication that kills you. They just don't want you to take opioids because they're addictive. It shows how people's logic can be messed up. Pound for pound, the safest over-the-counter medication you can take for pain is Tylenol. And Tylenol kills your liver. That's actually how you get killed, by taking Norco, hydrocodone, Oxycontin. It's the Tylenol and the medication that kills you, the acetaminophen. But pound for pound, the ibuprofen will kill you the fastest. And I think it's aspirin will kill you next, because that kills your stomach. And then obviously acetaminophen kills your liver, but that's basically the safest one. But acetaminophen really doesn't do anything for tooth pain. It's ibuprofen that works the best at inflammation. So that's what I've been taking. So I had an appointment a few days ago for an oral surgeon to look at it, because my jaw got damaged during my accident. So the dentist didn't even want to try. He was afraid he'd break my jaw taking out the tooth. So he recommended an oral surgeon. And like all dental or medical appointments here, they're always scheduled out 3 months ahead, because there's just too many people. So my appointment was a few days ago, and I woke up and I was exhausted. It was like I got no sleep at all. I was just so tired. And usually when I take a few sips of coffee and get in the hot shower, I'm okay. But the coffee didn't do anything. I got in the hot shower, I was moving around. When I got out of the shower, I was still exhausted. Like, I hadn't slept in 2 days. I didn't know what was going on. So I put on my clothes and I sat in my recliner. And I just told my wife I didn't feel right. I was exhausted. And then all of a sudden I started to get really nauseous. Like I was going to throw up. And my wife took my blood pressure, and it was 159 over 104. It was really high. And I told her, look, I can't go. So I just sat in my recliner and I went back to bed. And my wife called my primary and explained the situation, so she doubled my medication. So when I got put on blood pressure meds a while back, they gave me 25 milligrams. And we had checked my blood pressure a couple times a day, and we wrote it on a piece of paper. And when we saw her 3 months later, we gave her the piece of paper. And so she upped it by half, upped it 2 times. So then she gave me 50 milligrams. Well, we did the same thing, started taking notes and everything, and it was still high. So she upped it again when I had that incident where I couldn't go to the dentist. So now I take 100 milligrams. I was having issues for a while too. When we first moved here, I was getting these horrific, what I thought were migraines. Sometimes I'd wake up and I'd have that horrible headache, and I'd eat very little, and I'd take my vitamins, my supplements, I'd take my pain medication, and I would just sit in my recliner I'd turn off all the lights and I'd put a blanket over my head. And I would just lay there. I'd sit there and just kind of focus on breathing because I couldn't do anything else. My head hurt so bad. And sometimes I'd wake up a few hours later, even though I got plenty of sleep and I felt fine. I'd wake up and I'd still have the headache. I'd take my pain medication again, drink some water, maybe eat, and just kind of sit there. And I ended up going back to bed. And I didn't know what was going on. Nothing really worked. None of the medications I took worked. Certainly not the normal opioid I take for my pain. So when I got a new primary, she put me on blood pressure medication and it stopped. That's what it was. It wasn't a migraine. It was a tension headache because my blood pressure was so high. So thank God that's over. A couple of people in the comments of the Mark Laida video that I posted, my last video, told me that I should get a mic because they couldn't hear me. I'm working on that. I don't know exactly what to do. I went on eBay looking for a mic that was Bluetooth compatible with my phone because that's what I use to do the videos. And not much popped up, and I'm still trying to figure out. I'm trying to get the right mic and figure it all out. I'm not using a video camera to do this. I probably will in the future, but I don't know much about videography. I'm a still photographer, so that is something I'm trying to figure out. So I thought a good topic for this video would be moving on after the loss of a child. I know most people feel guilty. That's how I feel about moving on. There's something that doesn't feel right about it. It's like you're afraid that like moving on means he didn't exist, I guess. Or it's not a big deal that they were even here. Like we should move on. And I feel guilty about that. I don't like that. Most people think that people don't want their child brought up who passed away. It's actually quite the opposite. People want you to talk about their child who passed away because they want them remembered. I know I do. I love talking about my child. It's not the old school. I want to say pre-baby boomer generation where your child died and you take down all their photos and you pretend they don't exist so you can move on. That's not me, and that's not most people now. I want my son to be remembered. And there are other things that I feel guilty about too. When my son, who's alive now, when we started to get close, he told me that I was his best daddy in the world and I was his best buddy. And I almost felt a little guilty about saying that he was my best buddy because my son, who passed away, used to tell me that I was his favorite. And, I just, it's almost like you think that your son's here and he's watching you and he's going to feel bad if he hears you say those things. And that's really not how it works, but there's part of you that kind of believes that, I guess. I'm sure Julian would be more than okay with me telling Lucas that, but I guess in a weird way it feels wrong. But I've kind of grown out of that. Lucas tells me all the time that he loves me and I'm his best buddy, and I tell him the same. So I've even noticed that when I go down the hill and I go to the cemetery, it just seems like I don't have a whole lot to say. Like the cemetery, when I visit him at the cemetery, it's kind of brief. And I feel a little guilty about that. I'm not sure that would be the case if I still lived down the hill. I only see him maybe once a month, maybe twice a month if I'm lucky. By the way, there's a chance I might be moving back down the hill to the city where I grew up in Fontana. A friend of mine randomly called me and told me that his childhood home was being renovated and cleaned up, and he thought of me because his mom decided that she didn't want to sell it, she wanted to rent it out to somebody, and he told me that I was the most responsible person that he knew. So that was kind of cool to get that compliment, and he told me it wouldn't be for a few months though, so it's been about a month and a half. We'll find out soon, and if it doesn't work out, I told him, hey, if it falls apart or you guys decide to sell it, I completely understand. I explained that I can't pay that much for rent because I'm used to not paying much here and I don't get much for SSI. So I understand completely if you decide to sell it or get somebody else who's going to pay more because it's worth more. But basically, he said that that wasn't the case, and he let me know. But I want him to let him know that, hey, you're still my friend. I'm not going to be upset. I get it. So, if that happens, that's going to be cool because I'll be with my support system, my friends who are down the hill. And let me explain something. When my son died and I got in the accident, like I mentioned, people disappeared, or they stopped coming around, or they didn't offer help of any kind, and it really pissed me off beyond belief. And I prayed, and I prayed, God, please, I want to get away from everybody. I want to get far away. But I didn't mean 2.5 hours away. I meant like 30 minutes away, an hour away, and living just me, my wife, and my son. And that's exactly what I got. But I was 2.5 hours away instead. There's a quote by Oscar Wilde, and he says, when the gods wish to punish us, they give us our prayers, or something to that effect. And it's right on the money. I put that out there in the universe. I want to get away. I prayed, and that's exactly what I got. So I'm here and 2.5 hours away. I really don't have any friends here. I have a few acquaintances, but I wouldn't say friends. So it'd be nice to go back down the hill and be with my support system, use the mechanic that I've used. That's another thing. When we first moved here, I had some vehicle trouble, and a mechanic here took us to town. $6,000 to replace the back differential in my truck and do some basic liquid changes, like the radiator, the transmission oil, spark plugs. I mean, ridiculous. And not only that, the mechanics here are like doctors. There's a few of them, so the appointments are scheduled ahead of time, so you can't get whatever you need fixed right away. So I did find a decent mechanic here, and he finally fixed my truck. We couldn't pinpoint what was wrong with it, but I think it's finally fixed now. So I have one dependable vehicle in which I can go down the hill and go run errands and things like that. I have no dental appointment, so I need to reschedule that. There's a dentist down the hill that I really like, an oral surgeon, but we couldn't get a hold of him, so I don't know where that's going to end up. I'm sorry for going off tangent here. So, yeah, moving on feels guilty. My son should be here. Somebody's action took him away from me. And daily, I think, when I do my daily thing, when I'm going to the kitchen, when we're in our room for the night, and I go to the kitchen to get a glass of chocolate milk or something, I have these wild fantasies that I'll see him or really feel him and know that he's there and I could talk to him. But that's really not the case. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's here, but I just can't see him. We can't communicate, and I don't know he's here. But I'm really happy that Lucas finally came around and we're really close. That's really cool because he really didn't want much to do with me. My wife seems to think that being in the hospital and seeing me attached to all kinds of things freaked him out. And when Julian found out that my wife was pregnant, he came, and I know I've mentioned this before, but he came to me like we're alone and just said, hey, just so you know, you're my favorite. I love you. You're my favorite, okay? And I knew what he was doing. He wanted to make sure that he wasn't going to be abandoned in any way because he knew that a new person was coming to the world. So we got really, really close. Not that we were never close before, but we got really close. We would hang out alone, go do things, go to the woods, go run errands. And he was a blast to be around. It was perfect. And yeah, I mean, that's not the case anymore. He's gone, but So now it took a while, but Lucas can go with me alone places. He's grown up a bit. He's 6. He's older than my son was because they were the same age on March 4th, which I brought up. So he's grown up pretty quick. And he's cool. He always tells me how much he loves me, and we're very, very close, so that's cool. But that doesn't change the fact that there's an emptiness here and in the household, and I know my wife feels it too, but she never brings it up. She's a lot stronger than me. I think about it all the time. I can't get my son out of my head, or the accident, or any of that, and I'm sure it's because I was in the car or in the truck, and I lived, but he was with me. It's pretty traumatizing. It's amazing how much the loss of a child can just wreck your thinking, and you get very irrational. Like, Julian would really care if I told Lucas that he's my best buddy. Like I said in the video with Mark, you second guess everything about your life. How do you move on after you lost a child? And if you never lost a child, how do you move on with losing a mother or father that you're very close to? There was one person that commented on the video that I did with Mark, saying that I shouldn't use a measuring stick, that losing a parent could be just as bad as losing a child. And the first thing I thought of it was, she probably doesn't have any children. And I'm not trying to minimize her loss. I know losing a parent is scary. I remember when my dad died, I was so paranoid of losing my mom. And I told my friend that if I lost my mom, I'd feel like a lost little boy, even though that I was married and had 2 boys. I was so paranoid of losing my mom. And these are things that's part of life, right? You're going to lose your parents. That's at least what we're I guess, what is part of the human process. That's what it's supposed to be, right? Your parents get old and they pass away, and you're still alive, you bury them, and your children bury you. But it doesn't always happen that way. So yeah, that's something I struggle with, moving on. I'm sure anybody struggles with moving on with the loss of anyone, not just a child. Their parents, family members, friends. When my second wife left me, I made friends with the guy at work, and he was the greatest guy in the world. I loved him so much. He was perfect. He was exactly what I needed when my second wife left me. And we both worked in the eBay department of Sammy's Camera at the corporate office. And as soon as I found my wife, basically he died. And shortly after that, my wife's grandmother died, who she was very close to. It was basically her mom. So that's something I think about. I think that they were put in our life to help us out, or at least that was part of what they were here for. And they kind of served their purpose, and they're gone. And now my wife and I have each other, but they're not here anymore. So I hope this video makes sense. It seems like it's kind of all over the place, but that's basically what I have to say now. If there's any other topics or questions that you have regarding my videos, let me know. I really appreciate you watching. Have a good one.